Okay, so
okay,
we'll
so
start over
about-
on that question. So we'll start over on the question of changes that are happening in Toronto right now and your feelings about what's going on.
My experience has been that I have been displaced from another workspace, and it was a collective that we had formed and worked on really hard, just did art programming, had studio spaces, had a big space to run events and galleries and our gallery exhibitions out of, and that kind of stuff, and then essentially we lost that space. So I think that was kind of a big blow. And since then, I've kind of been thinking a lot about how accessible that kind of environment is, and right now it doesn't feel like it is. It just feels like it's this mass migration of people, and it makes it really difficult to establish something meaningful when you're constantly asked to remove yourself and set up somewhere else and start new. And I don't think that should be something that somebody else has that amount of power over your situation to make happen. And I think that Toronto is a really unique place, and I think that there are a lot of things that go on here, and there are a lot of amazing things that go on here as far as culture, arts, and community is concerned. And I don't always feel like those are fostered at a municipal level or at any larger political level either. Even though the city does talk a lot about how much they appreciate having those things and how attractive that is for people who are visiting the city or who live in the city or who want to live in the city. And so I feel like there's this big disconnect between appreciating those things and having that be something that is really useful for people, but also not having in any way any sort of support that would be able to sustain that. And there is and I don't remember if this is Margaret Mead who said this, but there's a quote that said, "New ideas need old spaces," and I think that Jane
Jacob.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And I think that is a really apt thing. I think that if you want to establish something, if you want to have these environments to work in and to thrive, then there has to be some security around that as well.
Why do you think that is about the old buildings?
I think because that's historically what has happened, right? Is these places were, semi-affordable places that essentially nobody else wanted, right? And so there was a lot of potential, and in my experience, artists are incredibly industrious and are willing to take on these projects when there isn't like a financial compensation involved or anything like that. Like they're just like, okay, we got to do this. We want to take over. We need a space. It's part of what it means, right? And so just having that available, and I think that's where that comes from. And I don't know that it always has to be an old building, but I think that historically it's been places that have not been entirely desirable, and so maybe that's where it comes from. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I've thought about that a lot, and I think that's a really good point, that it's what old buildings make possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of the desirability or the malleability or not being too attached to whether we keep the floors clean or some space to get messy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's the option, right? The possibilities that are inherent within it, I guess.
Yeah. And do you have that here? You feel like this is available here or has been here in Lansdowne?
I fell in love with the space as soon as I walked into it, and I feel like that is absolutely something that is important to definitely me, a lot of people who are involved with the space, and so I think that's definitely part of it.